Hi everyone, and welcome back to the show. We are here today with our first house call of the weekend, each and every weekend, bringing you the best of the week, all of the questions from the week, really right here on episode 1702. So if you want to read along today, if you want to check out also this show on video and actually see what this big document looks like of all of your questions, you can head on over to stephencabral.com/1702. Head on over to stephencabral.com/1702. And if you're new to the show, what we do is everyone emails in. I shouldn't say they email in their questions. There's only one way to get the questions answered on Ask Cabral, and that's go to stephencabral.com/askcabral. All of these questions will be answered in the order that they are received, and typically it's around a 6-week or so wait time. I know a couple people have written in a couple times. Absolutely, we will get to your question. The more questions that come in, sometimes it's 8 weeks or 10 weeks, but we always do answer your question. Happy to do that. I would say the best place, though, to get your question answered on a daily basis is cabralsupportgroup.com. That's a free Facebook page, and it goes right to our basically health coaching group and community group with about 10,000 plus people from all around the world who are very like-minded like yourself. They're looking to get well, they're looking to stay well, they're looking to lose weight, and of course, live longer, stronger. So love being able to connect with you on these weekends. If you're not tuning in on the weekends, please do feel free. We answer about a half a dozen questions per show and about 12 questions for the weekend. Saturdays and Sundays are the Cabral House Calls. All right, so let's get started. I really am excited to answer your questions. Again, I never know what's coming in, but I'll show you right here. I'm looking at it on this little iPad mini, and what you'll see is just the questions that come in. My team puts them together on a big Pages document, and that Pages document just keeps on going and going and going. That's it. So I can tell you, though, the first question is from Haley, and it came in on September 1st. So if your question was written in, or if you wrote in before September 1st, your question has already been answered. If you wrote in after September 1st, it is coming up on a future show. All right, so let's get to it. You'll see me looking down. I'll try to hold this up a little closer. Just my iPad mini here, and of course, in my EMF blocking case. We use these for our daughters. The only time they get these fun little iPads is on long car trips or travel. And actually, they used them virtually for school last year. They're not using them as much this year. But they're quite nice, and you can set them up however you want, watch them like that. For more resources like this, the things that I actually use, you can always head over to stephencabral.com/resources, and that page is always being updated as well. All right, let's dive right into the show. So the first question we said is from Haley, and Haley's question, as I have to punch back in my code here, she says what? This is my favorite podcast and love starting my days learning from you. Thank you for your product review. I would love your thoughts on the Biome FX lab. My doctor wants me to do this lab, and I would love a second opinion. I have a parasitic infection a few years ago, and most recently Candida overgrowth, but no detected parasites 1 year ago. I haven't done any labs in a year, and I think I may still have Candida overgrowth and would like to know if I have parasites, mold, toxicity, etc. Thank you for your input since you're truly an expert. Thanks, Haley. I appreciate the kind words. So let me tell you about this. We recently switched our bacteria and parasite stool test from one lab to another. I don't want to. We were previously using BioHealth. I don't want to misname the current lab that we're using because, again, we're always using functional medicine-based labs, but we're not using the lab that you're speaking about. I do know the lab that you're speaking about. Here's the reason why we don't use that lab. And we use, I believe it's doctor's data. Again, I believe it's doctor's data. Don't quote me on that. But I'm pretty sure that's who we use. And maybe your doctor could order that as well. But, well, let's get a couple things. I just want to straighten out a couple first things first, as they say. So, make sure my computer here doesn't die. What I'd like you to first remember is that as a stool test is not the best way to test for Candida overgrowth, without a doubt. It's It's not a good way at all. I know a lot of these stool tests are trying to look at the DNA of the fungal or the yeast-based overgrowth, but it's not my favorite way of doing that. I look for what's called yeast-based metabolites or end products or waste products. The best way to do that is with the Candida metabolic and vitamins test, hands down. So if you think you have Candida overgrowth, yeast overgrowth, check out my symptoms show that I did on that. That's first and foremost, that's the lab. Now the second lab to look for parasites, bacterial overgrowth, or H. pylori, well, yes, of course, that would definitely be a stool test. But ideally you run a 3-day stool test because most stool tests are 1 day. Yes, it's a little bit more of an inconvenience for a 3-day, but it doesn't cost that much more, and the results are much better because you get 3 opportunities to find a parasite versus just 1. So I switched to a 3-day parasite test, in 2012, I think, because I was using a 1 day as well, and just because my colleagues were saying too, you're going to get better results, and I said, you know what? Absolutely. If you have 3 opportunities, you have 3 opportunities. So really, that's what I would do. And then in terms of mold, it's a separate test. Yes, on the Candida metabolic and vitamins test, you will find mold markers. There's no doubt about that. So that's the first test. Then the bacteria and parasite stool test would be number 2. And then the mold toxicity test, you're absolutely welcome to do as well. So hopefully that was helpful. Haley. Oh, I need to set this a little differently. This is my, there we go. This is my first week using the iPad here. And trying to be a little bit more streamlined, and now it's going off. All right, Mo's up. Mo is a frequent contributor to the Ask Cabral, and now I know who actually Mo is because I saw one of his messages on Instagram. Definitely the best place to connect with me is on Instagram. Leave a comment on one of the most recent posts, ideally the today's post, any of the posts, I should say, for the podcast, and that's where I'm able to see your comments. And I love seeing who's commenting on the post. So please do comment and connect. All right. Mo says, hey, Dr. Brawl, Mo here again. My question today has to do with bowel movements. I did the 21-day detox, the parasite protocol, and the intestinal cleanse, doing the CBO as well as with the GSE drops. I've been noticing that the past couple weeks, instead of my normal 2 to 3 bowel movements, which were all solid and formed properly, I'm getting only 1 bowel movement that is formed and normal. The other 1 to 2 are either liquid or very small bits. I haven't changed anything in my meals. I literally eat the same meals every day. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, everything is the same. Smoothie, your purple crush, Mediterranean lunch and dinner. Any ideas what this might be? I don't ever bloat, no pains, no cravings. I force myself to do cheat meals, LOL. Thank you, as always, for what you do. Greatly appreciate your time and assistance. Biggest fan, Mo. Mo, thank you. And I'm your fan as well, for sure. Appreciate it. So, all right. The simplest, remember, let me just say that the Occam's razor is the best way to look at all problems. So if you're an integrative health practitioner, you always want to look at what's the simplest explanation here, right? You always want to look at what's the simplest explanation. It's not always simple, but you certainly want to look at that if you can. If you can get an easy answer, trust me, our jobs as integrative health practitioners are hard enough. Get the easy answer. The easy answer is that you're having some die-off with the CBO protocol. So basically overnight, it's been 12 hours since you ate anything, drank anything, probably even some of your supplements. And then you have a normal bowel movement. And then after that, well, you've done your early morning, basically die-off supplements. You've done your citricidal drops first thing in the morning. You've done your herbals, your antimicrobials. You've done your enzymes. So after that, it's very possible that you have some die-off and some liquid-based stool. As long as you're not becoming dehydrated, you're not losing electrolytes, that it's not watery diarrhea, that it's just looser, this might be just a normal part of the die-off process. So again, you can always ask your medical doctor if you're feeling any ill feelings and that you should, speak with them. Absolutely appropriate. No issues there. And so that's that. That's the most likely answer. Right back in another month if it's still there. Remember, you can always cut back on your products, meaning you could take them out for 3 days and then bring them back in one at a time if you chose to, if this was really giving you an issue, and see if it is actually the supplement use, okay? Some people doing a detox, though, they actually will only have maybe 1 bowel movement down from 2 or 3 because we've really eliminated a lot of the fecal matter in their colon, and it takes time to kind of, build that back up for better or for worse, right? So that's why it's good to do a quarterly detox as well. All right, great question. Josh is up next. Hi, Dr. Brawl. Thank you for all your wisdom. After my tick bite in 2015, I still find myself having symptoms. I took a genetic test, and it said I have an MTHFR with mast cell activation, and my body is poor at getting rid of histamine. How can I calm mast cells down and keep histamines at bay? Thank you. Josh, I mean, you're talking to that person as well, for sure. I have methylation issues, COMT issues, I've got histamine issues, mastocytosis, you name it. My body loves inflammation. It loves to produce inflammation. But I do my best to keep that at bay every day. So here's the thing. When you get a tick bite or you get Epstein-Barr virus or you get any of these particular issues, what happens is your immune system actually does become a little bit more sensitized, and it starts to become aggravated at sometimes the littlest things like some dried herbs, which have histamines, and some cloves and some cinnamon and some smoked foods and some aged foods and some fermented foods. So first, what you need to do is check out my show on following a low histamine diet. And I give you all that away for free on the podcast for sure. And check out all the different digestive-based shows. Make sure you don't have intestinal permeability. A lot of people have leaky gut after following a Lyme protocol because they took doxycycline and it caused intestinal permeability. It also caused mitochondrial issues. So I really recommend you run at least the starter kit at equilibriumnutrition.com. You'll get a complimentary health coaching call for about an hour with one of our health coaches, and they'll take you through a specific protocol for you. So that's the best place to start because you need to figure out what's going on with your underlying root causes like gut issues and your overall minerals and vitamins as well. Okay. So, and of course, I mean, good old vitamin C helps as well, but sometimes, you don't want to just use vitamin C for histamine issues. Hispro works fantastic as well. Hispro is one of my favorite products. It is at equilibriumnutrition.com. Contains nettles, quercetin, vitamin C. It's an amazing product. I use that every fall and every spring. All right, Simon's up next. Hello, Dr. Cabral. I've been following the protocols of the rain barrel effect for 6 months now, and I'm finally starting to see some improvement in my IBS-D, and overall health. One thing that I've really been struggling with, however, is finishing dinner a few hours before bed due to work hours, family schedule, social norms, and trying to get to bed earlier. I typically finish 1.5 hours before bed and try not to eat too much, which is difficult for me, or hard to digest foods, often out of my control. I was wondering if there's any protocols to increase digestion speed or mitigate the negative effects of eating too close to bedtime. Some of which occurred to me were digestive enzymes, or something like gingers and bitters, or apple cider vinegar before the meal. What would you suggest? Thank you once again. Simon, happy to help with this. It's again, so many people struggle with this. I struggled with this. I used to work until I was, how old? Let's say around 30 years old. I worked many nights until about 9 o'clock at night, whether it was me at a gym, me at a studio, me traveling on the road. I worked very long hours before I had children. So, and that is what it is. I consider working a privilege. I really do. A lot of people hear sometimes about my schedule and about my work. I just want to take a moment to say, I consider working to be a privilege. I really do. Not everybody shares the same philosophy as me, but one, I get to do what I love. Okay. The second is I know that in some way, even if it's a small way, I'm making a difference in some people's lives. And that feels really good. It feels good to be able to give back. And the third is that I know that not everybody gets to work. I know that not everybody has a job. So for me to get to do what I love, work with people I love, and actually get to work and make a good income, again, I consider it a privilege. So yes, sometimes I do work long hours, but I'm very appreciative of what I have. And I never want to forget that. That's all. Anyway, little sidestep there. So, okay, here's the deal. The best thing that you can do if you have to eat just an hour and a half before bed is make it easily digestible, which simply means if you can, go easy on the protein. Easy on the protein. It's the hardest thing to break down. That and raw vegetables like a salad. So really what you just want is an easier to digest meal. If you're doing wild elk, if you're doing bison or you're doing some type of meat, do it at lunch if you can, right? So have that meal at lunch, have that be your heavier meal, and then have a light dinner. Honestly, you could make a smoothie, you could make a smoothie bowl, you could do some, in a pinch, I do this. I do purple potatoes, okay? You can already have them baked if you want, a little bit of olive oil, and hemp hearts. It's like mush food. It's easy to digest. It's packed with nourishment. And that's it. It's super simple. And another thing you could do is instead of doing 3 meals per day, you could just do breakfast, lunch, medium-sized snack, and then just medium-sized snack for dinner. Like you can just split things up, but don't eat too much food before bed because it will affect your overall sleep and digestion and basically detox and all the different properties. When your body should be at rest, your body is basically awake, digesting. So you really have to make that 2 to 3 hour mark. That's the ideal, and still be in bed by 10. You can't bump your bedtime up to midnight just because you want more hours before bed without eating. So then you gave some great suggestions. Do 2 enzymes instead of 1, right? The daily digestive enzyme is great to use. Use 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar during the meal or after the meal or before the meal, however you want to do it. It's going to create more acidity in the stomach. And then, sure, digestive bitters are great. I did a podcast on that. And hot ginger tea, another great one to use as well. So you're already onto it, Simon. You're onto it. Hopefully those suggestions were helpful. Kristen's up next with, do you have any details on Myasthenia Gravis? Okay, and this was written in on September 2nd. Let me see what I have for time. We're good on time. All right, so let me put my little iPad down here for a moment. So, okay, Myasthenia Gravis is a neuromuscular-based condition, but it's an autoimmune issue. So think about this. The reason why I'm saying, how's the best way to explain myasthenia gravis to people? And because everybody should know about it. Well, it's an autoimmune issue. And instead of like rheumatoid arthritis, where it attacks the small joints in the fingers or the elbows, right? Or your Hashimoto's, where it attacks your thyroid. Or let's talk about, what's another one? MS, where it's attacking like the myelin sheath, or lupus, so like we can look at autoimmune in many different ways. Well, in this person's genetic code who has myasthenia gravis, is attacking more of the neuromuscular based connections. So it's basically how the nervous system speaks to the muscles. And what happens is sometimes there can be difficulty swallowing, sometimes fatigue, sometimes loss of motor control, basically movements, imbalanced. All of those things can happen. And yes, it's an inflammatory based condition, but you have to understand is that we can't start treating rheumatoid arthritis, really different than Hashimoto's, different than lupus, different than MS. We have to look at these as autoimmune issues, which means what's the root cause? Why is your immune system not balanced? That's what we have to ask ourselves, right? So yes, there's inflammation, but the inflammation came from somewhere. So my recommendation is to run the Big Five. Anytime somebody has an autoimmune issue, run the Big Five. Look at food sensitivities, look at gut-based issues, look at hormones and cortisol and thyroid and vitamin D, look at omega-3 levels, and what's the last lab? Look at heavy metals and look at your mineral levels, right? I mean, I would, if you can run the Big Five, and the only reason anyone wouldn't run the Big Five is due to finances, that's it. And if you can't run the Big Five due to finances, then I would certainly run the starter kit, which is the gut-based test, basically. It has the vitamins. It's called the Candida Metabolic and Vitamins Test. Combined with the minerals and metals test, you get the best of all worlds, right? So you don't get the foods, you don't get the omega-3s, and you don't get the hormones, but you get the others. And so it's a great place. It's called the starter kit, right? It's called the starter kit for a reason. So Kristen, thanks for writing in, and hopefully that was helpful. Let's get one more question today. This one's from Jasmine, or Yasmin. Hello, Dr. Cabral. I want to first say thank you so much for all of your knowledge you share via your podcast and in the Rain Barrel Effect. I'm reaching out to ask about which type of tests would you recommend in diagnosing a gut-based issue. I'm unsure if I should get a colonoscopy, ultrasound, or something else. Since the summer of 2018, I've been dealing with on and off, again, constipation, diarrhea, bloating, and abdominal pain. It gets in the way of everyday normal activities like teaching and being out somewhere like a concert or the gym. I've gone to several doctors, including GI specialists, who have for the most part ignored my gut issues. Recently, I've been having severe constipation and will only have a bowel movement for 3 to 4 days, and will only have one after I drink senna tea. Besides this, I'm a healthy 29-year-old female who works out 4 times a week, is within optimal BMI range, sleeps 7 to 8 hours a night. Sometimes nights are more difficult than others to stay asleep, drinks almond milk, and eats organic grass-fed when I can. After receiving a diagnosis, I would like to work one-on-one with you to solve this issue and become healthy again. All right, Jasmine, thank you for the question. And you know what? In my opinion, you're just looking in the wrong place. That's it. You're expecting conventional medicine to solve a non-disease related issue, right? And so here's the thing. You're dealing with constipation. You most likely have one of the big 4 issues, and that's H. pylori, it's parasites, it's bacterial overgrowth or it's candida overgrowth. I mean, it's one of those. Most likely, again, I can't give you medical advice. I can't diagnose. I can't provide you with a medical treatment protocol, and I can't provide cures. That's against the law. What we do is we look at the underlying root causes of why someone would have constipation, bloating, any of these things in the first place. And we do that all the time. It's the number one thing we do in our practice is digestive-based issues. Now, it is amazing, though, because when we ran a survey, a quarter of the people didn't even know that we ran at-home lab tests. So I'm just going to say Yasmin. Yasmin, the number one test to run would be the Candida metabolic and vitamins test. It looks for yeast overgrowth, some bacterial overgrowth, Clostridium markers, vitamins, so much. The second test would be to run a bacteria and parasite stool test, and the third one to run a food sensitivity test. We also combine all three of those into one gut testing package that you could also purchase for a discount as well, and that would come with an hour consultation and a protocol for you. So that's really the best way to save money and also get a consultation, which, again, it's great to run labs, and a lot of people are running labs from all these marketing-based companies. But if you don't get a protocol that goes along with it, and nobody's reading your labs to you to teach you what they mean, it's almost, I'm not going to say it's useless, but sometimes it's even worse because you overreact to certain things and underreact to other numbers, right? So I definitely recommend working with a local integrative health practitioner or a local naturopathic doctor or working with us over at equilibriumnutrition.com. So hopefully that's helpful. Always keep in mind, too, if you ever have a question like this, which lab is best to run, you can do a free lab selection call, and literally it's free. I think it's $49, and you take that money, and it gets applied to any lab that you want at equilibriumnutrition.com. So it's basically you put down money just to reserve it for your time, your consultation, and then you get it right back towards a lab. So I think it's a pretty great service. I wish it was around many years ago when I was looking to do all of these things, but that's why we created it. So again, you can check it out at equilibriumnutrition.com. But again, if you want to, you can always work locally too with your local naturopathic doctor or integrative health practitioner. So again, we just want to give you the information. What you do with it from there is up to you. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning into today's show. They fly by. And tomorrow we'll be going over more of our community's questions, starting with Kayla. So take care, everyone, and I will speak with you tomorrow.